Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to another episode of a Perambulate with Picard, discussing episode 7 today, Nepenthe. And thinking structurally first, we have a pretty balanced episode. We have 3 plots going on. They're all sort of told very effectively. I did think occasionally we spent a bit too long on Nepenthe without cutting back to the other plot lines, but of course that's where Picard is, and the show is called Picard. So what are you going to do? But the other regulars I felt were pretty well served by the storylines they got as well. So we'll talk about the Picard storyline first. Now, I didn't realise until I went to look at Trek Core, which I now won't do for the rest of the season, it's my own fault. Great site though, and great reviews after the episode, if you want to pop along there. But I saw the photos of Will Riker and Deanna Troi, or rather, Will and Deanna Troi Riker, I should say, because we see from their son Thaddeus's trophy that they have hyphenated their surnames. Yeah, I'd seen them in the trailer. I knew they were going to be in the show at some point, but even so, it's absolutely wonderful to see them, and they've been used really, really well. You know, sometimes when shows bring back old characters for cameos or one-off appearances, it could be anyone from the show, but I feel like these are the people Picard would seek out. Especially Will for his skills at giving advice and giving another perspective, but also Deanna for her empathy. And when Star Trek Next Generation came out on Blu-ray and we rewatched it, Deanna kind of became my MVP for the series, in that, you know, there are lots of times where she's kind of written quite stupidly, but most of the time her skills as an empath and counsellor and psychologist actually help the crew in ways beyond just, you know, the central sci-fi mission. And this is the case here. You know, it's Deanna's blunt telling off of Picard that helps him get through to Soji, that they actually want to help her and to start building that trust with her. And as soon as Deanna says, I know a ship's counselor isn't supposed to say this, you just know there's a beatdown coming, and I absolutely love it. The funny thing is, I would say these scenes are as talky as some of the earlier episodes, which came in for some criticism for being kind of a bit too slow. But I think we needed this. If Soji had just trusted Picard straight away, after what she'd been through with Narek, I think it's kind of what we expected to have happen. But this show keeps reminding us that while Picard still has his innate ability to lead and to strategize, he's out of practice, and there is no reason for Soji to trust him. This episode gives her that reason. If she had have just trusted him because he had saved her, it would have weakened her character, in my view. And yeah, instead, the trust between them is earned. And it's kind of earned for us as the audience as well. I love Soji's little head tilt when she sees the pizza oven, because as she says, all the food she's ever eaten has been replicated. And come to think of it, over several episodes, whenever we see Soji eat, it starts showing us kind of the replicated food most of the time, and that's just a nice little bit of foreshadowing. Speaking of foreshadowing, and getting to the plot on La Serena, we start the episode with another flashback, this time to just 3 weeks ago, when Commodore O comes to see Agnes at the Daystrom Institute, and we already saw the beginning of this conversation, but now we see the rest of it. And I think what we have here, first of all, is confirmation that Commodore O is a Vulcan as she first appears, because she performs a mind meld. Now, we don't know for certain that Romulans can't perform mind melds, but certainly Romulans have never seemed to show any psychic ability. So I think that says that Commodore O is a Vulcan. And also, the imagery she shows Agnes would seem to imply that she's acting for the greater good as she sees it, and that's how she enlists Agnes. Now, of course, that could be a lie. We don't know. But I'm kind of glad we got that scene, because it tells us that Agnes is someone trying to do the right thing in difficult circumstances rather than a villain. You know what I mean? She is not doing any of this for her own personal aggrandizement. It's about protecting the world she knows. And there's just a nice little bit in there where Agnes says that she'd never been off Earth before. It's just a bicycle coming, and a car. She'd never been off Earth before. So naturally, if Commodore O shows her that something bad could happen to Earth, that's going to affect her even more than someone like, say, Jean-Luc or Riker or Troy, because, you know, they're used to travelling around space. They have a broader universal perspective, whereas Agnes only has this one thing to protect, and that is Earth. It also gives us a chance to see a softer side to Raffi, which I really appreciate. You know, it's possibly a bit stereotypical to have the two female main characters basically self-medicating with cake, but I could go for some cake right about now. But I have to say that the actress playing Raffi, whose name escapes me at the moment, I just find her utterly charming in these scenes, especially seeing as she didn't warm to Agnes to begin with. To see her comforting Agnes, and Rios as well, in his own way, it's really quite touching. And it goes to show, even though we had this darker series and these characters have a bit of edge to them, they haven't just been... When you've got a darker series, there's often the temptation to just write everyone as a butthole. And we don't have that with the main characters here. You know, they have their roughness and their gruffness, but they're still people who want the best for themselves, but they also have feelings and emotions, and they develop feelings for others. And I quite like that. And again, perhaps that's why it's taken us so long to get to this point. You know, they've been together now on their ship for 3 weeks. It kind of demonstrates that, yeah, they would have had time to get to know each other. And of course, Agnes then tries to, well, we presume, kill herself. And she seems to have been saved by the EMH. I wonder if the EMH remembers what Agnes did, or what he saw her doing, or if Agnes did something to his memory banks. Because certainly they're going to be able to track down that she made that uranium sulfate, I think, herself, and injected herself with it. Yeah, there could be some interesting questions to answer next week. The other thing I notice is, given that Commodore O has sent Agnes to go with Picard, that might explain where Agnes got that phaser rifle, or disruptor rifle, when she turns up at Picard's place. Because remember I said back then, where did Agnes get the gun? I think that's where Agnes got the gun. Finally, the third plot is on the Borg cube with Elnor and Hugh. An amazing performance by Jonathan Del Arco, as he watches the XBs die, and there's some dialogue later that implies that the Romulans have killed all of the recovered Borg. You know, I could be misreading that, but Hughes kind of says he failed them all, or maybe he's just worried that they will die. But, you know, when we saw Hugh in The Next Generation, he still wasn't fully emotional. And here, you know, seeing Jonathan cry and weep for the people he saved being killed, it's absolutely amazing. Now, spoilers incoming. Narissa then kills Hugh. And, oh, I'm really sorry to see that. You know, I know we had Icheb die the other week, but Voyager wasn't my Star Trek. Star Trek The Next Generation was my Star Trek, so Hugh is one of my characters, if you see. And, you know what, he dies attempting to protect the XBs, to stop Narissa's Romulan force, who are taking control of the cube. So it's not, you know, there is a heroic aspect to the death. But, oh, I wanted him to carry on. I wanted more Hugh. And as for Elnor, look, at first I thought, oh, that's really lazy. The warrior drops his guard and so the person he's protecting dies. But thinking about it, Elnor has been in very few real combat situations. He's trained for 20 years, or 16 years, 14 years? Anyway, he's trained for all these years, but when he meets a truly shifty, duplicitous opponent like Narissa, we shouldn't be too surprised that she's able to get one up on him. And Elnor, of course, is left behind on the ship, on the Borg cube, and yet he seems to kind of start panicking a bit and being unsure of himself. So that could be part of his real-world inexperience, but he finds a Fenris Ranger's calling card. So I'm not going to go on Trek Core and check. And Andy, if you're watching this, please don't leave a comment telling me whether 7 of 9 is in it next week or not, because she might be. I would like her to be, but I don't want to know for sure. But yeah, all in all, this is another really good episode. If we see the sort of slow build of the first 4 episodes as like the production team coming to grips with the formats, even then, I think cutting those down into 3 episodes would have been better than having it as 4. But these last 3 episodes that we've had, 5, 6 and 7, they've been a really great balance of action, there's some comedy in there, and there's some great character work. And unlike episode 4, it's not just Captain Picard and everyone else. It's Picard and all the other characters get some insight into their thought processes. But that's enough from me. I'd be interested to hear what you think down there in the comments. I won't be back this week to discuss the Doctor Who episode because there's no more Doctor Who until, well, Christmas or New Year, who knows. But I do have a Doctor Who video in the works, which hopefully I will be shooting indoors. I'm just going to go down here where hopefully it's slightly less windy. But yes, I am shooting in the next week a video called Doctor Who, What Happens Next. That's a working title. Actually, no. Much better title. The Future of Doctor Who. That's the next Doctor Who video I'll be publishing, but I'll be back next week to talk about episode 8 of Picard, whose title I don't quite know yet. I'm sure I'll find it out before then. But until then, let me know what you think of the episode, and thank you very much for watching.